Hi everyone, welcome back to River and Rune. So today's episode is going to be less about the rune readings, and I actually wanted to discuss with you guys the archetype of Odin, or Odin as his name is pronounced, because the D is actually a thorn and that has a TH sound in Icelandic. And I wanted to discuss Odin with you guys and his archetype in relationship to masculinity and in relationship to what sometimes can become a toxic representation of the masculine. So the reason why I wanted to talk to you guys about this is because I want to share more about the spirits and share more about archetypes and share more about my understanding in regards to my studies and how I've studied religion, spiritual practice, and other cultural practices from a sociological perspective and an anthropological perspective, but also give you guys my opinion and my interpretation of these particular mythologies so that it can help you guys understand more what they mean, how they can relate to your life, and how you can use them for your own uses, essentially providing you guys a toolbox, especially in terms of the stuff that I do on the daily. So, Odin, he is the god of poetry, of war, of travel, of transformation. He is a war god, a poet, traveler. He carries a very mercurial energy to him in the sense that as an archetype, he is all about learning and finding knowledge outside of himself. He's always traveling. And so his energy, though, what he carries within himself, is a dichotomy between what is considered the more passionate side of things. So, because he also has an element to him that connects to madness. So poetry, creativity, movement, transformation, madness, kind of edging itself towards the edge of passion, of what passion can be. And then connecting to the other side of him, which is the more logical, the more wise, the more analytical, the more critical. And so, because he is, from the stories and from a lot of the representations that I've seen of him and what I've read about him, he can sometimes be very calculating. He plays people around him as if he's playing a game of chess, so to speak. So how does this relate to toxic masculinity, or how masculinity can express itself in a way that may not be the most beneficial, or can actually be a little bit harmful in terms of the archetypical presences in our psychology or in our lives. One of the names of Odin is Draugadróttin, which means Lord of the Undead. And I think that's so, well, besides it being a very beautiful word, it's a very powerful concept. In Iceland, there is an understanding of these warriors who die in battle, and they are called draugar, right? And draugar, what they really are undead warriors. Like I've said, they died in battle, usually to protect something that was important to them, whether it was treasure, gold, jewels, land that was sacred to them. So whatever it is that they were trying to protect, when they died in battle to protect it, they did not fully die. They did not allow themselves to pass on into the other realms, or to allow for the transition of life into death to become something else. They clung to their life as it was, and they fought to defend the thing that they wanted to protect. Now, I had a very interesting meditation in regards to the draugar, and as I was meditating, I connected to the archetype of Odin, and I asked for his guidance. And as I did that, I felt half of my face and half of my body as if I was looking in a mirror, but I saw half of my face and half of my body as this undead warrior. Pieces of flesh, like the whole nine. You guys have seen zombie films and all that. But the idea is that I saw half of myself as undead. and with ice blue eyes. Like this eye was ice blue and the other one was just my normal color. And I was like, whoa, it was quite an image. But it was an image that brought to mind the aspects of me and the aspects of my masculinity that were undead, that sadly were unhealthy, or I was unable to put them to rest. And the warrior half of me, the protective element of me that wanted to protect my heart, that wanted to protect my vulnerability, that wanted to prevent myself from living the life that I wanted to live in terms of connecting to my more feminine principle, connecting to my creativity, my growth, my ability to share myself with others, to share my heart, to share my work. And this energy in me wanted to protect me and to keep me safe. So it manifested itself in various degrees across my psychology. Whether it was through small deviations of preventing myself from doing something, or distracting myself with different aspects of daily living, and preventing myself from really taking the time and to put time aside to work on the things that I needed to work on, and to focus on my own growth and my own ability to share with others. So how does this relate to the archetype of Odin? And how does this relate to the essence of the Draugr, or that essence of the undead warrior? Essentially, being that Odin is a Draugr, which Lord of the Undead, Lord of the Undying Warriors, the energy that Odin is carrying as an archetype, as someone who has all of this passion and yet desires so much control. Without the balance between those two sides, without the understanding and the compassion necessary to bridge the gap between those two sometimes dichotomous methodologies of our psychology, you can develop parts of yourself that are undead. And what I mean by that is parts of yourself that are trying to protect you, but essentially they need to be put to rest. They need to be let go of. For example, a more concrete example from my experience is when I had that vision that I shared with you guys, and I saw myself as the half undead warrior. I knew that he was protecting my heart. And my heart is my writing. My heart is my rune work. My heart is the thoughts that I have, the processes that I understand, and how I want to share that with others. And so I realized that this energy that was trying to protect me was doing everything it can to keep me from sharing myself with others, because that's how it knew how to protect me. You don't have to be hurt if no one knows that you're there to share anything. And so essentially it's a way of keeping yourself half alive. Hence, half undead, half of this Draugr, half warrior that hasn't put down his sword. And so this very much connects to the archetype of Odin, and how masculinity can sometimes become unbalanced in our lives, and how that archetype of Odin and the necessity of his work in bridging the gap with compassion between the more critical sides of him and the more passionate sides of him, and melding them into the wisdom that the masculine can represent, the wisdom of understanding, the wisdom of boundary making, the wisdom of stepping forward and making something happen, right? The electric principle in harmony with the magnetic principle, the principle of the femininity, of magnetism, of bringing things in, of welcoming, of creativity. So all of these different sides of ourselves that exist within who we are. So I wanted to share that with you guys, and share that concept of Odin as the Lord of the Undead, and how certain parts of ourselves and certain parts of our psychology can remain in those undead states, in those states in which they're trying to protect us. These warriors in ourselves are trying to protect us, but ultimately they're preventing us from moving forward in our growth, which oftentimes requires us to bury the parts of us that need to be buried, the parts of us that have died, or the parts of us that we no longer need. For example, in my life, the part of myself that knew that I no longer need to keep myself away from people, to keep myself and to keep my practice away from people, because my practice is a part of my life. It's a part of my expansion, my growth, my love, and how I share my energy with people, and how I share myself and offer my services to my community. So this part of me, this masculine energy that wanted to protect me, that kept this guard up, that kept his sword in his hand, that continuously stepped forward and said, no, you won't be hurt again. It's a valiant thought, and it requires us to have compassion when looking at that, but also knowing that it is something that we may no longer need. There's a time and place for everything. So there's a time to pick up the sword, and there's a time to set it down. And so when it comes to the toxicity of the masculine, or the unbalanced masculine, is when that part of you, or that essence within you that always is ready to fight, that always is ready to step forward and put forth yourself, the draugur in you, the undead warrior in you, the part of you that needed to set down its sword but hasn't. That's what I'm talking about. That's the energy of the archetype of Odin, who sometimes can be more aggressive than necessary, or sometimes can be more controlling than is required, or can sometimes edge his passion into madness. So I hope you guys enjoyed that discussion. I'm going to have more discussions with you guys later, and I'm very excited to have them. And I'll talk more about Odin, I'll talk more about his journey, I'll talk more about the journey of the other gods and goddesses that I know of the Nordic tradition, and how I relate to them, and how they've helped me with the runes and runic reading and runic divination. So I'll be happy to share that, and we'll have more talks, and it'll be really fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed this discussion, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll be very happy to check them out, and I'll also be posting a part of this on Instagram TV to catch your guys' attention, and you'll be more than welcome to check out the rest of it on YouTube, which is where I'm going to have this mainly posted. So, tell me what you guys think. Tell me what you guys think about the story of Odin being the Lord of the Undead, and how you've related to different parts of yourself that you may realize now that need to be buried, or that need to be put to rest, that no longer need to protect those pots of gold, or those treasures, or those sacred parts of you that now it may be time to reveal to others. So let me know how you guys put down your sword, what ways you can help yourself to be vulnerable in the comments below. I'll be happy to check it out. Thank you guys for joining me tonight on River and Rune, and for listening to this talk on the archetype of Odin, and the archetype of how that can assist with understanding the balance of the masculine within our psychology. So thank you again. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evening, wherever you are in the world, evening or daylight. I hope that you enjoy it, and I'll see you guys next time on River and Rune, okay? Bye everyone.